Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 12, Episode 5. And before we get into it, I just want to start off by saying that I had to watch this episode 3 times with 3 glasses of wine because I was in shock. Crystal, this needs to be your last season. I don't see it for you. I never saw it for you. You're boring. And for you to pull a stunt like this is absolutely pathetic. I was really in shock when we finally got to the bottom of what was so dark that was said. I was like, are you kidding me? But let me not jump ahead. Let's just get right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. And as you guys can see, I have quite a lot to say. We start off this episode with Garcelle. She's in Ventura County. I think they said it was like 35 miles outside of Malibu. And she has just bought a brand new beach house. They're going to knock it down and turn it into something even more fabulous. So she's really excited. She says that she just can't wait for her kids to go out there and just have it in the family. And how as a little girl growing up the way she did, she just never dreamt that she would have something so nice. I said, Garcelle, better put these checks to work because mama keeps the job. She's on Bravo. She was on The Real. You know, she's always in a TV movie. She's on the big screen. So she is a very nice coin.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
And it was also really cool because we got to meet Garcelle's older sister, Chantal. And she says that Chantal visits her and her boys the most out of all the siblings. And then we also learned that Garcelle's the baby of 7 kids. But a very cute scene. I'm happy for Garcelle. And I really can't wait to see what the house looks like once it's all done because I know it's going to be stunning. And I can imagine in future seasons when she has all the ladies over at her beach house, that's going to be really nice. And a quick side note. What episode is Garcelle's friend, Cherie Zampino, who's Will Smith's ex-wife, when is she joining? We all know that she's supposed to be the official friend of the show this season, and I'm like, we are 5 episodes in, where's she at? I'm getting tired of Diana, I can't stand Crystal, you already know that Erika and Dorit are trying my nerves. Kyle, you guys know how I feel about this cast. I am just here for Garcelle and Sutton at this point. Now we jump to the next scene with Dorit and Erika meeting up for lunch. I'm going to breeze through this scene because I was kind of bored, to be honest with you. I don't care to hear anything about Dorit and this robbery and her therapy. Like, I'm tired. She's dragging it out. I don't care. So we can just skip past all that. But we do see Dorit and Erika discussing Rinna and how Rinna's dealing with her mother being ill and her mom possibly passing away because remember that her mom's in hospice. So they're talking about that. And then Dorit changes gears and says that PK wants her to have a girls' trip to get her mind off of all her problems with the whole robbery. And he wants her and all the girls to go to Punta, Mita, Mexico. Erika's down. Erika at this point is always looking for a freebie and a free trip. So she's like, girl, count me in. I'm down. I can't wait. And then we also find out that Miss Diana has offered up her private jet. And did y'all catch when Erika said, it's just so great to have friends like this? And I was like, I know you're so pressed because now your money's all messed up. So you are dying to have a rich friend again. Like, the social climber in Erika really jumps out whenever Diana's name is brought up. Yes, it's nice to have friends with means, but when you're all like, yeah, I mean, it's just so great to have friends like this, and it's like, girl, cut it out. I just can't get with Erika. I can't get with the social climbing. I just find it to be just very desperate behavior. And you could tell that it really kills Erika that she's no longer that girl with a private jet and a yacht. And all the money that Diana has, and she has no personality. And honestly, she can be a one and done. I don't want to see her for season 13. Just my opinion. Now we jump to a very interesting scene with Kyle and Crystal meeting up for lunch. Now this little showdown was hilarious to me because you guys know how I feel about Crystal and Kyle. I can't stand either one of them. And neither one of them was innocent or 100% right in this conversation. So I could pick out the wrongs on both sides. But anyhow, they sit down for lunch, and before they get into it, they're making small talk about Paris Hilton's wedding. Now, we all know that Kyle is Paris Hilton's aunt. Now, let me just say this quickly. Every time Kyle talks about her sister Kathy and Paris and Nikki, I have always gotten that impression that Kyle secretly wished that she was Kathy. Kyle has always given me that very insecure, always in the shadows of her sisters, and she's trying to break out of that. So anyhow, they finish up with all that small talk, and now Crystal says that she's not used to conflict and how she held in her feelings for a whole year. So Kyle interjects and says, but Crystal, you brought up something from a year ago, you were trying to defend yourself, but then you threw Sutton under the bus, and on top of that, you're alluding that something so dark and so awful was said, and then you have the nerve to say that you don't want to talk about that. You can't do that. Now, while I don't like Kyle, I feel like she's always the one throwing Sutton under the bus for something. She did make valid points. Crystal threw an allegation out there and then did not want to say what it was, and you can't do that. When you insinuate that somebody has said something racist to you, you have to say what was said. So now Crystal cuts in and says, let me make this very clear. I'm not going to repeat what was said. Now, at this point, I probably would have called the waitress over and gotten my check and left because you're playing in my face.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
This is very cowardly of you to throw something out there and now you don't want to say it. And for the few people who do feel like Crystal might have something on Sutton, Crystal would have said it. Because the way that Crystal was going in on Sutton all last year, she would have said it. And if you think for a minute that Bravo would not have shown the footage, you are sorely mistaken. Crystal over-exaggerated, and now since people are calling her out, like, okay, what was said? Now she's too afraid because she knows that she'll be caught up in a lie. Now it's, well, I don't want to say, just know that it was dark. No, that's not going to cut it. And in today's society where you can be canceled like that, especially if you're racist, again, I'm not believing Crystal. She's full of it. And she's trying to use this race angle to garner sympathy and to stay relevant and have a storyline on this show. That's all that it is. So Crystal and Kyle go back and forth. Kyle says that Crystal's gaslighting the whole situation. Crystal's offended. And then she goes on to ask Kyle if she can give her the benefit of the doubt. Now, Kyle, here's where I have to get you together, because when you said to Crystal that she's being dramatic, I was like, you're the wrong person to call anybody dramatic. The way Kyle will start crying at the drop of a hat, Kyle is the queen of dramatics on this cast. And Kyle saying that Crystal needs to be more open to other people's feelings and stop being so passive-aggressive. I said, well, take that advice too, sis. Because Kyle is very passive-aggressive. I just found this scene to be hilarious because you have two people and they're both trying to call each other out on their mess and nobody is innocent. This next scene with Kyle and Diana talking, getting to know each other more, not a whole lot happened. We learned some more about Diana. I will say that, once again, Kyle's dogs just running around while Kyle had a very nice charcuterie tray. I said, Kyle, if you don't put these dogs in the next room, because I swear I would have screamed had those dogs eaten off that charcuterie tray. It would be one of those things where if I had to film a scene with Kyle, I'd be like, you know what? Let me stop at In-N-Out before I go over to her house because I just want to stay on the safe side. I'm not trying to eat after anybody's pet. Dogs and cats are cute. I love them. I'll pet them, play with them, but I don't want them breathing and touching and sniffing on the food. But anyhow, Diana's over at Kyle's house and they're talking about Paris Hilton's wedding. And then we find out that Kyle's oldest daughter, Farrah, has gotten engaged. So Kyle's excited. She says that she can't sleep. She's just so over the moon about this news. And then she jokes around that she might be a grandma sometime soon. I actually have a really funny story about Farrah. I met her a few years ago in like 2017. I was in LA with my sister and my mom, and we were house hunting. We were driving around Beverly Hills, and we had seen this listing, and we said, you know what, why not just stop in and check the house out? It was a gorgeous 6-bedroom house. It was in Beverly Hills, and Farrah was the agent. So we walk into the house, and she showed us around. Gorgeous home. She was really sweet, really lovely. And it was just so funny because I wanted to say, oh, you know, I watched your mom on Beverly Hills, but I controlled myself. I didn't say that. But she's very sweet, very nice. And yeah, I mean, we were there for like 45 minutes just talking, and very sweet. So Kyle's asking Diana how many more kids does she want. And mind you, Diana's 48. So Diana goes on to say that she does want a few more, and then she tells a story about how she actually was pregnant with a baby boy after Eliana, but she lost the baby. When Diana was telling the story about what happened, I was like, thank God she's alive, because that could have gone another way. But the story was very sad. I definitely felt for Diana, and you know, it seems like she's optimistic about having another one, because she just said, you know, we'll see where it goes. And I'm like, you know, that's a good attitude to have. I hope we see some more vulnerable moments from Diana this season and not just surface level, because she was very endearing when she was telling her story about what happened. Oh, before I forget, I definitely caught that shade that Diana threw about how it took her an hour and a half to get to Kyle's house, because remember that Kyle no longer lives in Beverly Hills. She's in Encino. So I said, she just had to let everybody know, like, yeah, girl, you don't live in Beverly Hills anymore. Now we jump over to the next scene with Garcelle and Sutton. They're out at dinner, and I loved Garcelle's outfit in this scene. I said, Garcelle, this is what we want to see. Because I'm not going to hold you, but some of Garcelle's outfits this season so far, I haven't loved. I didn't like her outfit at Sutton's store party in the last episode. I wasn't loving her outfit when she was in Palm Springs at Kyle's store opening. I'm like, Garcelle, we've talked about this. You're a beautiful woman. We love you. We need your fashions to be on point. As the only Black Beverly Hills housewife, we need you to show up and show out at all times, okay? We cannot have you slacking at any point. So now Garcelle says last night was strange, and they immediately start discussing this whole dark conversation that Sutton allegedly had with Crystal. So Sutton says, I'm confused too. Me and Crystal already talked about this last summer. I told her the story about how I was at home looking out my window, and we have a pool and a jacuzzi in the back, and my daughter was out there with her friends. She was out there with her Black friends, a Chinese girl, and an Irish Catholic girl. And I said, you know, that's what it's all about. She's a multicultural friend group. That's all I said. So Garcelle says, what's so dark about kids being in a pool? Am I missing something? And I was thinking the same thing, like, am I missing something too? Because I didn't hear anything bad that was said. So now Sutton says, girl, I don't know either. Maybe because we were talking about race, but I don't understand. That's all I said. Now I was thinking, was Crystal upset that Sutton said Black and Chinese as to African American and Asian? I was just confused, like, I don't understand what was so dark and bad about that conversation. So now Garcelle's like, child, I'm just confused. This makes no sense. Like, obviously, a few pieces are missing to this puzzle, because I just don't understand why Crystal's causing all this commotion about that. Then Garcelle suggests that Sutton needs to watch her back around Crystal, because anybody who can allude that you said something so dark and awful is not your friend. I 100% agree with Garcelle on that. Crystal is a friend to nobody. I think that she is also a social climber, and I just think that she's desperate. She's desperate to be in with the cool girls, the Fox Force 5, whatever they want to call themselves. She wants to be in with them badly. And because Sutton's the easy target, she just felt, oh, you know what? Let me just throw this out there. to gain favor with them, but it's backfiring right in front of her face. And the logic just doesn't make any sense. If you said something so dark and heinous, there's no way that I could move past that and be your friend. How are you forgiving Sutton? Now you're bringing this up again and saying that you held on to this for a whole year and it was just so dark and so awful, but you still want to be this lady's friend. Make it make sense. It doesn't add up because it was so awful, you would not be able to move past that with Sutton, especially if a racial slur was used. So right there, Crystal has shown her hand that she's lying. Now we move on to a very short and very sad scene. Rinna is in Oregon, and we learn that her mother, Lois, has just passed away. Her mom was 93 years old, and she passed away in hospice. Now, in this scene, I kind of had to fast forward through it because I found myself getting very teary-eyed. My father passed away in hospice. Just devastating, okay? And my heart really went out to her because it's devastating losing a parent. But it was very touching seeing the clips that they played of her mom dancing and just, having a good time. And that's very beautiful that her mom lived a very long life. Her mom saw 93 years and she was vibrant. She was in great health. Like, that's a blessing. But again, my heart really goes out to Rinna and her family. Now we jump to the next scene. It is the day of the girls' trip to Punta, Mita, Mexico. And everybody's meeting up at the airport hangar because remember that they're all flying on Diana's private jet. So all the ladies arrive, Rinna arrives, they're all happy to see her. And Rinna says that she wouldn't have missed this trip for the world because that's what her mother would have wanted. Now we see the ladies on Diana's private jet. Dorit's giving them the whole itinerary for the night. They're going to settle into their suites and then they're going to have dinner at the restaurant at the resort. So now we see them touch down in Mexico and they're in two separate vans. It's Kyle, Dorit, Rinna, and Diana in one van. And then is Garcelle, Sutton, Erika, and Crystal in another van. Now it's some awkward tension between Sutton and Crystal and then Sutton and Erika. So that van ride was a bit dry. But I just love how Sutton just pays Erika dust. I couldn't stop laughing because Garcelle was like, I'll bet you guys money that Dorit is in the van right now with Kyle and them speaking Spanish. And we see Dorit in the next van and sure enough, she's speaking Spanish. And then Garcelle brings up how much she just loves that Diana sends her whole team out before her to set up her whole entire hotel room. And I was like, how many times is Diana going to mention that? She already brought it up when they were going to Palm Springs. Why do you need to bring that up every single trip? It's a bit obnoxious. And when Diana was like, yeah, I like for my team to go before me because they need to, set up the room, make sure that everything's okay, and make sure that wherever I lay my head is in good condition. I'm like, everywhere you stay is a 5-star hotel. So what are you talking about? You need somebody to inspect the Four Seasons, the St. Regis, the Ritz-Carlton. Like, girl, can you stop? Diana's very annoying, and I still don't believe all this mess about I don't go to stores. Girl, please save it. So they all get to the hotel. They're greeted with this coconut drink that looked amazing. And then we see Diana in her presidential suite, which is gorgeous. And she's going over the whole layout of the room with her stylist. Now it's time for dinner, and we see Crystal and Diana arrive to the restaurant first. Then we see Sutton and Rinna show up. Now, Rinna's dress was everything, but Sutton, I love you, sis. But I was not feeling Sutton's dress. And the contrast between her dress and Rinna's dress, it was like night and day. I mean, Rinna looked sexy. Sutton looked kind of matronly. I'm like, Sutton has way too much money for some of her outfits to just not hit. Like, I'm glad that a lot of us were in agreement about Sutton's clothes. I don't know what it is, but it's like the pieces just don't hit. And they should, because she's spending tens of thousands of dollars. But anyhow, Kyle, Erika, and Garcelle arrived, And I really liked that dress on Kyle. That was a look. I said, okay, Kyle, you did that. So everybody's at the restaurant except for Dorit. She's still getting ready. And while they're waiting on her, they're all asking Rinna how she's feeling. Rinna says, it's only 2 days out, but it's hard. And then she goes on to say that her mom loved being famous. She loved, all the likes on Instagram. And then they do a toast to Lois. So now Dorit finally joins them for dinner. And she's like, guys, I'm so sorry I'm late. I only had 10 minutes to get ready. I was just so triggered because the hotel put me on the ground floor. And while it's a really nice suite, I was just really triggered and anxious because I'm just worried about my safety. And it was like, just sit down, order a drink. We don't need all these theatrics about why you're late, sis. It's enough. You're in a 5-star resort. You have a camera crew following you. You're going to be okay. I can assure you that. So they're ordering their drinks and their food, and here's where things get awkward. Rinna says, well, I've been gone for a week. What have I missed? It's an awkward silence. Garcelle says, oh, girl, nothing. And then they all start laughing. So now Sutton brings up her story event. Now it's more awkward silence because everybody was there except for Erika. So Sutton says, well, honestly, I missed a whole lot too because apparently you guys were all having a conversation without me. So now Crystal jumps in being nasty and she's like, well, actually, we did have the conversation with you at your party. So Sutton jumps right back in the conversation and she says, look, let's clear something up right now. I do not want my words to be misconstrued. You know my character. You know my family. We express love to everybody. I don't want any untruths to be spoken that could be damaging to my character or reputation. Now here comes Crystal, and when I tell you that Crystal sounded so dumb throughout the rest of the scene, she jumps in to say that she felt very uncomfortable when they had the conversation last year, but they moved past it. So now Sutton says, so if we move past it, then why bring it up? Sutton says, look, I want to trust our friendship, but this ain't it. So now Crystal jumps back in and says that the conversation was very uncomfortable and the tone was very heavy. Now Dorit interjects and says, but Crystal, you said that the conversation was very dark. So here comes Crystal trying to deflect, and she's like, well, you know how words are. Words are like a Rorschach. And they're all like, what? Now, mind you, Garcelle's asking for clarification what Crystal said because she's at the other end of the table. So she's like, wait, what? So Crystal says, yeah, I know. These are really big words. And right then and there, I would have cursed Crystal clean out because don't you ever talk to me like I'm dumb. I said, you want to sit up here and talk about microaggressions and Sutton saying X, Y, and Z, but now you want to insult a black woman at the table saying, well, I know, girl, these are big words you wouldn't understand. How dare you? And like I said earlier, Garcelle is nicer than me because I would have torn Crystal up at that table. Don't you ever talk down to me. That was so condescending and so rude. All that because you want to deflect because you're lying. You know good and damn well nothing dark and evil was said from Sutton. And I don't mean to scream, y'all, but that just really pissed me off. Like, I was just so livid when she said that. And Crystal, you want to be all smug and be a smart ass, but let's see how you are when you're sitting up there crying when they all get you at this reunion. Now Diana tries to stick up for Crystal, and she says, guys, look, Crystal's a baby. She's the youngest in this group. And when Dorit said, honey, she's 38 years old with a child and a husband. She is not a damn child. Miss me with all this baby stuff. Crystal is a grown-ass woman. She wants to be all smug and be all nasty, talking about, well, these are big words and you're accusing somebody of being a racist. No, you have to sit here now and take it. So now Sutton jumps back in the conversation and says, I'm coming from a place of love, and you've been trying to assassinate my character twice now. And for the few people who do think that Sutton might have said something, I can assure you that had Sutton said something crazy like a slur, Bravo would have aired it and she would have been fired. Also, I'm not saying that Sutton doesn't need to do better. She does. I think that Sutton is a very privileged white woman who doesn't think about race because she doesn't have to think about race. But I don't think that she's racist. So now here comes Erika hopping her narrow behind in this conversation and making it about herself. So Garcelle cuts in and says, Erika, Two completely different situations. You cannot compare last year with you to what Sutton and Crystal are talking about. Like, please stop. Erika is so pressed every time Sutton's name is mentioned. Erika, you claim to be a boss bitch, a bad bitch, an ice queen. You don't care. So why are you so bothered about Sutton? You don't like her. She doesn't like you. Grow up and deal with it. If you want to be friends with Sutton, then just say that. Sutton does not owe you an apology for having questions about the case last year. So Sutton says to Erika, Erika, I just had a few questions. I was not deliberately trying to assassinate your character, so let's not. Also, Sutton is nicer than I am because I would have paid Erika dust. You don't get to threaten me and curse me out and call me all these names and then think that you can still speak to me afterwards. That's not happening. I would have given Erika my ass to kiss. Girl, don't say anything to me. I wouldn't have answered her. Don't talk to me. Me and you are not cool. We're not ever going to be cool. Just leave me alone, girl. When you cross certain lines, you don't deserve my kindness. You don't deserve me even being cordial to you. It's just, we're not speaking. When I see you, I'm ignoring you. You don't even get a hello or goodbye out of me. And that's what Erika will be getting from me every single time she saw me. I'm not even acknowledging your presence when we're in the same room. I really can't stand Erika, and I hope that this is her last season too. And one of y'all gave me the tea a few weeks ago that Kyle and Erika's contracts are both up at the end of this season. And if that's the case, good riddance. So everybody's getting super irritated at the table. Dorit's asking Crystal, like, girl, are you sure you're not making anything up? Like, are you sure that you heard something so dark and so awful? So Crystal snaps back and says, I'm not making anything up. And how dare you try to deny my experience? So now Crystal says in her confessional that Kyle and Dorit would not have this smoke for Erika or Rinna if they said that something was so dark. Then she continues on by saying that they view her as somebody they can easily attack. I'm like, Crystal, while that might be the case, the point still remains that you are not telling the truth because you know that nothing dark was said. Also, Rinna and Erika play dirty. So I can assure you that if Rinna and Erika claimed that something racist was said, they would have exposed the person. They would have said what was said. Because we know how they both get down, especially Rinna. They live for drama, they live for mess and chaos and confusion. So trust and believe, they would have said, oh, you know what? Sutton did say X, Y, and Z. They wouldn't have needed anybody to force them about what was said. So now Erika just flat out says, so you pretty much just want Crystal to say that you're not racist. So now Rinna says, this is where it gets dangerous. You're dangling a very dangerous carrot by even putting those allegations out there. Crystal's looking stupid. You have Sutton cursing. She's like, I did not effing say anything bad, okay? Like, don't do this to me. I didn't say anything wrong. Baby, Miss Sutton was so angry. She decides to air it all out and she exposes Crystal. She's like, girl, I've heard a lot of things about you and all your friends say the same thing about you, that you make up lies behind your friends' backs. So now Sutton says in her confessional that Beverly Hills is a very small town, people talk, and several of Crystal's former friends warn Sutton that Crystal likes to align herself with the most powerful person in the group and she'll do whatever she has to do to get there. I believe that wholeheartedly, and I definitely got the impression that she stepped on a lot of people to get close to Kathy Hilton. And when I tell you I was screaming when Rinna co-signed on what Sutton was saying, when she was like, yeah, I mean, I heard the same things about Crystal too, I just chose not to say anything. I said, Miss Crystal, things are looking really bad for you, sis. Your little snakish, two-faced ways are really coming out. And I was here for Sutton airing Crystal out. I said, go ahead, Sutton. I would have done the same thing. You want to sit up here and lie on me and have me almost canceled and have folks thinking that I'm a racist saying all this crazy stuff? Well, let me air you out. Now, Kyle interjects and she's like, Crystal, I was there. Like, I did not hear anything. I mean, I could be missing something, but I just don't remember anything crazy being said. So now Crystal and Kyle go back and forth. And then Crystal says in her confessional that Kyle's choosing to serve herself. So now Crystal pleads with the table if they can just move on. So Kyle's like, girl, what? Like, you're sitting up here saying that something was said that probably wasn't even that bad. Like, you're making this worse than what it really was. And you just want us to move on? So now Sutton tells the pool story about how she raised her children to have multicultural friends, and that's all she said. So Crystal at this point looks really crazy. Everybody at the table's like, that's what was said? Like, that's it? Kyle's like, oh my gosh, I heard this story. Sutton told me this in private, one-on-one. Like, I already heard this already. That's not anything bad. Crystal has the nerve to ask Garcelle if that was problematic. Garcelle's like, problematic? Like, girl, what? That wasn't anything horrible that was said. Then Garcelle says, I'm taking offense because you made it seem like what Sutton said was worse than what it was. And I would have been mad if I were Garcelle too, because Crystal could have potentially destroyed Sutton and Garcelle's friendship, because what if Garcelle was like, you know what, Sutton, Crystal said that you said something bad and awful, so I don't even want to be your friend. I don't want to talk to you anymore. F you. Like, if she had just immediately believed Crystal, that could have gone really bad. If the whole group had decided to believe Crystal based on what she said, that could have been terrible for Sutton. Sutton's entire reputation could have been destroyed. And that's where the episode ends. But let me just tell you something. Crystal is not looking good for you. And you look dumb on Watch What Happens Live last night, too. You were very quiet, very subdued. I loved how the audience was not on your side when Andy was asking all those questions. I just think that it's really awful that you would sit up here and twist a story and make it seem like something so awful was said. You are grasping at straws, sweetheart, and it's embarrassing to watch. And I'm glad that everybody did press you on what was said, because you cannot throw out allegations like that and then expect for people to believe you just because you said that something bad was said. It doesn't work that way. You don't have to like Sutton or be a fan of Sutton, but right is right and wrong is wrong. And what Crystal did was disgusting. But y'all, this episode had me heated. I hope you all enjoyed my recap. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.